welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Alain Matt from Zeronimo Games. His debut title about Animal Prison Brawl called Animalcatraz is in late pledge on GameFound. Alain, welcome to the binge. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, doing great. What a great introduction. Nice to be here.
And now it's Alain, Alain. I'll get you to give us the French
Alan, all good.
pronunciation for people.
That's fine. No problem. I'm used to that. Yeah, a little French touch. So
Yeah, so it's always cool talking to Canadians. This is one of my favorite things ever. Being a Canadian myself,
Right.
it's a vibrant community here,
For
as
sure.
we all know, and lots of really cool game designers in the Toronto area, in the Montreal area, even out in West Coast.
hmm
And so anytime I can meet one that I haven't met yet, it just makes my day. So let's start from the very beginning, my friend. I know you've got your debut title that's in GameFound right now.
hmm
How did you get into this industry, or when did you start kind of board gaming? Where did this journey start for you?
So I worked, so I'm a professional illustrator, also graphic artist. And so I got into that's I'm in my 20s, after like a 3-year stint in Belgium, learning, comic book, drawing and everything like that. So I really wanted to push that aspect of it. Came back here to Quebec City, and here is it started booming in terms of the video game industry mainly. So that was the way to go in terms of what I had to offer as well. And it was, and I'm a bit of a video gamer myself, so that kind of all worked out in any case. And so, yeah, I got into the field. I worked for many big companies, like Ubisoft for 5, 6 years
Oh
on,
wow.
very big titles like
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed and then Activision, Spider-Man, and Guitar Hero, and all sorts of stuff like that. So, yeah, after I actually switched jobs, like I went from Ubisoft to a smaller company at the
Mhm.
time, and after a year and a half, they just didn't have enough to keep me on and whatnot. So I ended up, for the first time after, I don't know, well, I mean, maybe 17, 18 years of working professionally, suddenly out of work.
Yeah.
And I Animalcatraz was in the back of my head for a long time there, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, okay, so I have this golden opportunity to push something forward here, and what could I possibly, do with this? My intent at first was really like to push a brand,
Mm.
develop like what we call an IP, intellectual
Yep.
property, and just do many things with it. And this started off as the a comic book title because I was more into that at the time. Uh, I did want to do an open world video game about it, but like I quickly came to realize that it takes a team. I did not have that, but also I did work for a number of years during that 17, 18 years of working as an employee I worked as a game designer on video games, and that was maybe for a 3, 4 year period.
Mhm.
And then I just wanted to get back into illustrating and everything. So, after losing my job after all this time, I
Was this
was,
during COVID, by the way? Like when did you
oh, this was
break
before
from the job?
COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew this question would be coming. I'm a
It's
little
all good.
ashamed of
Is this
I'm
before
ashamed.
COVID? That's good enough. It was before
No,
COVID.
I'm just a kind of a little ashamed of how long I've been on this project. So
Yeah.
this was I started kind of pre-COVID. Yeah, I found files on my computer that date back to 2017, very rudimentary, like ideas about Animalcatraz. But I just remember I switching over, like I just had this idea when I started playing board games around that time more intensively,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait a second here, I'm an illustrator. I worked as a game designer as well. I knew, and it just didn't seem to click on so many aspects of it. It just made so much sense to turn this IP idea, this brand into a board game. So
When when you were working with Ubisoft and these different companies, so were you doing like the illustration for them? Were you doing like a lot of the digital, and
yeah.
was it more the like final illustration or concept, or like what was the function?
Great question. A concept art, really.
Mhm.
So nothing that you generally see in the final game unless you unlock. Sometimes you can unlock illustrations, concept art, and stuff like that as
Yeah.
a bonus, whatever. But for the rest of it is really inspiration. It's art direction for the rest of the team, the 3D modelers and texture artists and lighting and everything. So it's really in pre-production, as we say, phase.
Hmm.
So I generally have time off during the summer while all the programmers are locked in working 60-hour weeks trying to get the game out for Christmas for November.
Yeah.
I'm generally onto another project by then. I'm really at the very start of the project. At some point, everything is locked in. All my designs have been approved, and I'm onto the next one. So yeah, it's pre-production concept art.
A
Yeah,
lot of people may not realize how big the video game design industry is in Quebec specifically, right? Quebec, Canada.
yeah.
It is in the Montreal area, I think, right?
Montreal too. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's just
Exactly.
huge. And
Yes.
it surprised me as a Canadian. I didn't realize this until I started talking to people in the industry. I was like, really? I didn't realize there's that much of the industry is located here.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Like, how, like, did you just apply? Like, how did you even
Yeah.
get connected into that industry?
Yeah, I did. I mean, at the time, you remember Flash games? I,
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
yeah, right. So they stopped doing that. But yeah, that's how I started off. And it was really like so these were internet games and applications and things. I remember we spent half of the time optimizing them so they would run properly. Uh,
Mm,
and whatnot. And so, but still, I mean, so yeah, it was 6 years before that for another company called Sarbacan, and they had big clients and Disney and well, Warner Brothers and Nickelodeon and whatever. So it's mainly like known characters. I did develop some new IP, some new brands at the time, and that's really where I wanted to focus my attention. I just love starting from scratch and
what were
just
some of the
developing.
IPs that you created? Like, what were some of the new brands?
Well, I mean, the IPs, when you create a brand, it's from what I was told at the time. I remember the company would spend about 30% of their time or their budget on developing new IPs, new brands, and by the end, it slipped down to about 5% of and the rest of it was we would call servicing for clients for different, for I didn't know, Batman and Spider-Man, plenty of superhero stuff, Powerpuff Girls and whatever, and some more adult themed kind of stuff, but so the IPs you develop, they rarely. That's just kind of the sad part about it is
Yeah.
like it's kind of hit and miss, and most of the times it kind of misses the mark in terms of it just doesn't get all these companies are kind of working to get the next big thing out there, but a lot of
Yeah.
them actually fail along the way. So I can't really say I actually managed to develop anything in the companies themselves that is worthwhile in terms of a new brand.
Hmm.
But I did learn a lot in the process of it, and so you kind of end up doing whatever they it's a company after all, and
Yeah.
they're trying to run a business and make money, which just makes sense. It all makes sense. So yeah,
Yeah, they're a grind too. Like I hear from a lot of these video game companies, it's like I don't want to use the word sweatshop, but I mean getting pretty close, right? Like it's
yeah,
all hands on deck and going as fast as possible just to hit some of these
yeah.
deadlines.
They call it crunch time, and
Yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of that. But like I said, I'm kind of like the lucky. I was because I'm in pre-production where they tend to waste a lot of money developing things or taking the wrong direction, back stepping and coming back. By the end there, yeah, they've blown a lot of the budget in concept art and pre-production
Yeah.
design phase at the beginning. So I have to say I'm pretty lucky. I haven't done a lot of crunch time, but I do know people that are on the back end, on the end of the production line, and they have to compensate big hours, big weeks. Sorry. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
did you spend any time like doing graphic novels themselves? Like, or is it mainly kind of like adjacent to that?
Oh, adjacent. I
Yeah.
ended up. I've been freelancing for close to 10 years now, so I
Mm,
do occasionally get comic book style contracts. That kind of thing. And it is a style that I absolutely also developed. I mean, I that's the one I pushed in Animalcatraz. For uh, some reasons. I mean, it's easier for me to actually budget the time it takes to create a comic book style illustration as well. So this is more a boring answer, but it's also like when you get contracts, it's like how much is it going to cost to do this or this kind of like comic book strip or this page like that. So just the actual classic steps of like penciling, inking, color, then your gradients, little effects and stuff like that. It's easier for me to kind of see the to manage the workload and figure out instead of going into a more of a painterly artistic
Mm.
original style where I don't know if it's gonna, and this and that. So by, due to that, I did end up with a style that was more of a comic book look to it.
Mm.
And I do have some other comic book projects there in the back of my head, and
Yeah.
somewhere hidden on my computer somewhere. But yeah, I did some small things here and there, but I never actually got into. It's a dream of mine though to get into to actually do a proper
Is it
comic book.
more digital, like digital drawing that you do? Like, is it ever anything like actual, like classic, like on paper, or is it everything digital now?
Um, Pretty much everything is digital now. I
Yeah.
have to say, I haven't really drawn on paper for a number of years.
Mm.
The irony of it all is from what I remember when I'm working at Ubisoft on the Raving Rabbits. There was that was so much fun. Probably one of the best project. It's just so ridiculously, it's just childish humor and everything, and we were just laughing our way through the.
Yeah.
And I was like the only one there in the whole office. I think we're probably 500 people with a scanner, like old school. And they just said, "Well, you can keep it. You can keep it on your desk. It's fine." Because I was actually still drawing on paper,
Oh, no
and
way.
I was just scanning pencil drawings. So that's how far I would ever go. I don't think I've ever done anything professionally for a company that was entirely done by hand or like
Mm.
with paints and stuff like that. But for the sketching part, for sure. And so I would just scan everything, every pencil drawing there, and then we could start from there. And then we digitalize it and and whatnot. But I flipped entirely to digital. It's mainly just modifications. Just there's a lot of adjustments along the way, and it does get really complicated to do that old school manually. I mean, on a traditional paper kind of
Yeah.
system. So it's mainly just for adjustments. It is way faster. So.
I find it interesting the number of people I've talked to now that have
Mhm.
done what you do, and then the natural evolution for them was to get into the board game industry. And I see two camps. I see the camps like the Andrew Bosleys of the world, right, who did the cover of Everdell. You know, he's famously
Yep.
known for that as well as a lot of
Beautiful.
other smash hit titles.
Hmm.
Um, he, he went just the straight art route, right? Okay, I'm doing art, but I've got this other category now that I can approach the board game industry where there seems to be a high demand for what I do,
Hmm.
and that became his niche. I've talked to others who like you're doing have said, okay, I've got these ideas of things I kind of want to create, and I kind of like board games, and I think now I can use this skill that I already have. This is going to quite frankly save me having to go hire somebody. And I'm going to do my own illustration for my own game,
Exactly.
which I think is great too, because it's one of the highest costs involved
Oh,
in the
for sure.
whole production part of board games. For those who don't know, is the actual is the art, right? So
Right.
it's cool to see. Is it one of those things where some of the people I've talked to in the video game industry who weren't necessarily even illustrators, but just worked in that industry either as account managers and so forth, they
Hmm.
saw board games as really a tactile way to kind of put the digital stuff to the side.
Yeah.
Almost like it's like no matter what career you have, when you come home at the end of the day, you probably want to do something that's exact opposite of what you do during the day, right? So if you're in
Yeah.
front of a computer all day, the
All
last thing you
right.
probably want to do is get on a computer and help your family with their IT problems, right? You probably want to
Right.
like pull out some dice
Yeah.
and some
Yeah.
cards and play games. Was
And you
that
get so
like
many
any of
demands
that?
for that too, because people think that you actually like it to the point where you spend your whole evening doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was it any of that for you as well? Like, did you find that, hey, this is a way for me to kind of disconnect from the digital world a little bit when I get into kind of the tactile world, or?
Yeah, actually, it was more of an adaptation in terms of I did a lot of, it's a bit of a cliche answer here, and I'm fine with it in terms of like just so many mistakes along the way. In hindsight, like I look back and so many things I would have done differently
Yeah,
because at the time I was designing more of in a cocoon in a and especially it designed all through
yeah,
COVID, and you mentioned that, which was obviously a strange period for everyone, but playtesting then was always a certain challenge. Um, Also because I started like as you mentioned, like from an illustrator standpoint, and the idea that I wanted to develop a brand, so the visual feel of it, and what it what the perception of it in terms of visually was super important for me,
Mhm.
and which is why I have a very thematic game. From what I was told, everything kind of just fits into the prison theme, in just so many ways. To me, it was really important. So I kind of worked upside down. I don't
Mhm.
like in terms of. I say upside down. I did it backwards. I developed the visuals, and sometimes I was kind of like a little, if I can say, pissed off at myself for having gone so far in designing a character, a weapon, or something like that without actually really seeing the back end of it, saying, what am I going to be doing with this exactly? Where is this? Where's the use for this? And I was more like, oh boy, I want to do this. I want to do this. This is so much fun. And so to answer your question, this is like a long answer to your question here is working all day, in the video game industry, coming home at night. I didn't want to, like I didn't do what I should have done. Was like get down and actually like just write this, sorry, like just boring kind of game designing,
Mhm.
you know, uh, model or whatever, just follow line by line, whatever, all these elements. I was more into like, let's develop the universe, the lore, get into that first. And then I ended up presenting my game. Like this was like, even I was at Gen Con in 2019. And,
Oh
I was
wow.
telling people, I was like, oh yeah, the game's coming out in 1 year. I'm like, here we are. And so I just regret doing that because just by looking at the game looked visually very polished, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's already ready. This is a prototype.
Yeah.
This is looks." And I was like really proud of the whole part there. But I had so many game play challenges in terms of things that just didn't. The game was overly complex, too many rules, and so just get back to like the tactile way, but also the to me, it was not so much the tactile or the physical feel of the game and what it so much looked at on the table. It's mainly like the interaction or what people actually understand from it and the questions that arose that came from it. That was the more enlightening and also a bit depressing part
Mhm.
where like, oh my God, I'm far from being finished here. I mean, there's a lot of there's a video game, there's a tutorial. They only gradually show you part of what you need at the beginning, and then and then the game is like everything is there laid out. So it was too busy. There's just too many things to grasp at first, and so I had to trim it down. And that was the best thing I ever did for the project, was actually just to step back. And I got all of that from actual playtesting, but actually having people around the table and just getting reactions from people. And that was the whole game changer for me, though, where I was like, oh, this is different. This is a whole different beast here. This is not a video game. I have to,
Yeah.
it's so.
Let's explain to the audience what Animalcatraz is. I'm showing for the people on the video replay your campaign page here, which looks super awesome. And congrats on your funding. You hit over $100,000. And clearly, there's a lot of people that were liking what you put together here. It's full of miniatures, great art, and so forth. But walk us through, what is this game about, Animalcatraz? I think you could probably guess by the name, but walk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, it all started with the name. So I just wanted to push that forward. Figured, all right, we've got animals in prison, so I think that's a given. Well, I think it's understood at this point. So, yeah, it's a sandbox prison brawler. I really, those three words connected took me a while to actually put them together and to just really define it. It's a 2 to 8 player game, where either with two ways to win. It's either escaping or committing crimes to increase your reputation to become the kingpin.
That's
So it
awesome.
has a race aspect to it. It's the first person, first team to do that. I say team because once there are like four prison cells on the board, and if you play with more than four people, then you end up playing in a two-player co-op team against the others. So yeah, so you're sharing a cell, so you're playing like the cellmates version of it, and so you're both working to either escape or to become the kingpin, obviously before everyone else. So it has an open world feel to it, or a sandbox in terms of, like I said, open world because it was inspired by video games, but it's an actual sandbox, and there's a lot of modules that you can add to it as well to ramp up the challenges and add gameplay elements to it. But ultimately, that's yeah, and it plays in about, I'd say, 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Oh, it's awesome. The so I was just showing on screen here. So you're literally emulating like the cell block, right, of the prison.
Right.
What I thought was really cool when I was looking through some of the reviews and some of the tutorials is you're like you can bribe guards, right? You're like you can fashion that you get like I guess your first player marker is like a shiv that you made from like a toothbrush,
Yeah, it's a
and
toothbrush shiv. Yeah.
yeah, and then you can get into these kind of like almost gang wars within the prison of
Right.
the different animal groups.
Yeah.
And so, can you walk us through kind of this whole mechanism of the card where you've got like your player card, but my understanding is like you go primal at some point and it flips
Right.
over, and I guess that's when you go into like boss mode, or walk us through that.
Yeah. So, two sides to the convict cards. Obviously, the normal side, and presents the convict in his mugshot. Obviously, a little exaggerated here, but you see they've been caught, was it red-handed, like, just covered in blood and whatnot, right in the midst of some crime, some and on the other side they're actually, so they've gone primal, and which is one of the reasons why it's not just like it was the play on words at first, like Animalcatraz, but also like yes, the idea of like how can I actually benefit from the fact that they're animals. Well, they go primal. I've been compared, and that was a bit of a surprise. That wasn't really intentional, to Zootopia, in the
Mm,
movie Zootopia, where they have these berries that make them like can kind of go primal, or
no,
you
that's
know
true. Yeah.
yeah. So there's this drug that I, the primal drug that I invented for the game itself. And so you can either get it from, the contraband, or you can recruit gangsters, like pusher gangsters that can give it to you. There's a downside to that because obviously the characters are they're asymmetrical. They start off with a various level of either strength or cunning. Well, they have strength and cunning, different
Mm,
levels of it. But you can obviously, like, there are things that you do in the game so you can upgrade your character, and you actually need to do that, especially to escape. In any case, when you go primal, so you flip your card over, you've taken the drug, and then there's the primal miniatures also that is either an add-on or in the all-in edition of it, and you can swap your character one for the other, make it quite obvious that now you're a beast on the board, but also means that you are very dangerous for in terms of fighting and whatnot. What also means that you're because hey, drugs are bad. In terms of cunning, your cunning goes all the way down to zero.
mm.
For the time you are in your primal mode, so where it's like the last 2 rounds. So to me, it was a bit of like you're high on something and there's not much else you can do about it. Just simply like go with it, and you're kind of stuck with so that has to be like, it's a double-edged sword kind of
Yeah.
thing. Some players do not like to go primal because it does limit part of it. It boosts one part of the game, but then it limits the other part, or you become a target for stealing or whatever. Cunning is, whatever's related to the cunning aspect, which you don't no longer have any of.
I always find it cool when you see these when games go out of their way to create kind of thematic elements and upgrades.
Right.
So, for instance, on the where you hold the cards, it's like an
Hmm.
electric chair, right? So you've
Yeah, I
got
have it
this
right
electric
here.
chair
Yeah.
that you actually build,
Yeah.
and it holds your card deck, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
you know, I like to see this because, like, I myself when I do my games, I'm always trying to find that extra little thing I can do
Hmm.
that just gives that little bit extra quality, whether that be like inside lid printing or
Right.
whether it's a first player marker that's kind of cool and thematic, like you've got, right? With the
Right.
toothbrush shiv. Is this something that's kind of was part of your process right from the beginning, saying, look, I'm going to make this thing as immersive and thematic as I possibly can, I guess, in your approach, and at a cost, quite frankly, because these things aren't cheap, right? To
No,
create
for
these
sure. I
different things.
am discovering this right now.
So was that your kind of the decision process from the beginning, or to just kind of like almost grow to that point as you went along?
No, it was a very I had developed the game in my head for a number of you know, certain aspects of it for sure for a while there. So from the moment I started designing, sketching, for instance, like the electric chair, it was in my head for years in
Yeah.
terms of like how can I make this actually work? Like if you backtrack to working in the in the industry, the video game industry and flash games, I remember many years ago like just working on family friendly just even childish brands like Barbie before it became
Yeah.
cool and Powerpuff, like I said, Powerpuff Girls, but like I was just like deep into it, and I had this I just and I was watching South Park and stuff like that in the evenings, and I was like, I want to do some really adulty themed kind of thing, and let's go for edgy, I want to do,
Yeah.
and it's also the reason why I chose to go into like the Kickstarter approach or crowdfunding, because I did want to have an IP that was more mature themed. And so to me, having like a toothbrush shank was more of like, yay, I finally get to do something a little gritty, with a bit of a, and same thing for the electric chair. And because I did get approached by, publishers and have conversations with them, but to me it was like, you are not going to change anything of this. This is not going
Yeah.
to, like, to me, it was like, I want this to be, and there's a few things I actually toned down because I was like, told like, I don't even know if I can, maybe I don't know if I can say the word on in here, but I mean, there was a thing of it, that some players were like, "Oh, that's very, very funny," and others were like, "Ugh, that's a little too far." But
Yeah.
yeah. So I was kind of like, so I did develop a lot of these ideas, these themes, and I just wanted to go all in terms of, because the whole prison theme, I mean, I'm just fascinated by
Hmm.
the prison life and everything. And I just went through everything that I could find on Netflix, online, and just, I think I saw Shawshank's Redemption like 7 times maybe. And I was like, I want to do something, prison for sure. And then I was checking out other games, and then what's out there in terms of prison board games? I was like, not too many though. And I was
Yeah.
like, all right. And so I also, I started with the universe in the design, but I also started with like just listing everything that made it very, very prison-like in terms of
Hmm.
like the value of the items you have in your hand or your pockets in this one. So you have your sell stash cards, and you have your carry items that you have in your pocket, and they're obviously hidden. And I was thinking, all right, well, so I'm imagining myself, I'm in prison, and I have something in my pockets that I'm really holding on to because I do not have too many things here. So every item is precious, has a certain value in the game, but in my life as a prisoner, whatever. So I was always going from like, what does actual prison life feel like, and how can I transpose that into a game to gameplay?
Hmm.
And every time was always that, to finally like, and so the fact that they were, they're animals, and it has a bit of a comic books, that was easier than actually having humans, in terms of like there's certain moments where gameplay loops were a little heavy, and I had to cheat a bit and make it just a little more exaggerated,
Yeah.
not too realistic, but more like, this is fun, not too prisony, but this is way better than the actual real. But I always went from something that was very connected to, with connected to prison life, and see how I could transpose that to the gameplay as well. So I was started in that direction in that way. So yeah.
Even the player boards I thought was kind of cool. How, I mean, you could have easily just made them player boards, but when they fold up, it looks like a file. Like it looks like the prisoner's file. Like it's just very clever details you've built in here, which I thought was really cool.
Nice.
So this has obviously been a passion of yours for a number of years, and congratulations to finally get to this point and get it funded, and it's now in late pledge. I will encourage people to check this out in the show notes. It's worth seeing at the very least for the artwork that you've got here. It looks
Thanks so
awesome.
much.
Where are you going from here? Like, what's the next steps? Are you going to be a publisher going forward with other titles? You have other ideas you've been working with, or like, what's the plan?
Well, definitely moving forward with it, with the brand, that's for sure. Like, I
Mhm.
just want Animalcatraz to resonate, and there's like so much work involved to get to this point where I'm thinking, well, and everything is a first in terms of like talking to just building up your contact list, and just getting the
Yeah.
word out there. So at this point, I'm figuring, well, I'm really still very much motivated by pushing this forward for a second edition for all of that. So right now it's an expansion, it's a board expansion, and I'm
Mhm.
working on something modular, a bit of like in Scythe where there's an expansion where you actually have parts of the mainly because or I don't know, like Heat, for instance, where you have a different map with a different. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, well, all right, I have one prison board right now. How could I possibly? And so it's also because I've been, watching so many prison series and whatnot. If you might remember Prison Break, I
Yeah.
think it's second or third prison.
Great
The
series. Yeah.
season they end up in Panama in
Mhm.
prison down south. So and this came up with it as an idea from someone at a convention showed up and we were playing. It's a Animalcatraz is obviously a bit of a play on words, and it's and the person shows up and say, "Hey, you could do something like down south and call it Guantanamo." Guantanamo. I was like, wow, wait a second. So I was connecting things like Prison Break, Panama, different, more of a Southern prison vibe. And I was thinking, all right, so I don't want to redo like, they're just most of the game is the same. We're really talking about a board expansion and a few things here and there. And yeah, that would be the next step. And something like a less than a year's time or something. I have the ideas around that. But yeah, so for sure. And from there on, definitely just whatever. Just if this keeps working out in the board game field, then that'll be it. I'll just be pushing in that direction. But in any case, if not, then it's going to be a comic book. It's going to be whatever. Animalcatraz is going to live on because I'm just going to keep on pushing it forward.
No, it's an amazing IP. Well, Alan, again, congrats. And for those, again, please check this out in the show notes. I'll put a link to the campaign. It's still on GameFound and Late Pledge, so people can still get in on this if they find it something that they like and they find interesting, like me.
Hmm.
I want to wish you all the best in this campaign, and I can't wait to see your vision finally come to life.
Oh, thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you, James.
All right, my friend, you take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.